Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali.
As a kid in Louisville, Cassius Clay was smitten with the fight game. As an adult, in front of the world, Muhammad Ali mastered it. His larger-than-life personality outside the ring blurred the simple truth that Ali was one of the best fighters who ever lived. Part artist or warrior, he performed with a guile and grace never quite seen in a heavyweight before or since. Here are 12 rounds that define his genius. 12 blasts of Ali the boxer, and by extension, Ali the man. Here's Ali's dozen, and trust me, it's a must.
Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali.
First up in Ali's dozen, the 1960 Rome Olympics. In his last round as an amateur, Muhammad Ali, then still known as Cassius Clay, took to the international stage and put on a show. Here's a first-hand account from Ali's Olympic teammate, one of more than a dozen eyewitnesses who described these defining rounds and what it was like to witness history.
Cassius was 18 years old. He was a kid. When he went to Rome, he was awed by the experience, and he wanted the gold medal very, 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 very badly. I think he wanted his gold medal more than the rest of us did.
Cassius Clay of the United States takes on Ziggy Petrikowski of Poland in the finals of the Olympic Light Heavyweight Boxing Championship in Rome.
His gold medal fight was against a Polish champion who had quite a reputation, quite a name for himself. Ali went out and he moved well, and he was boxing, moving in and out.
Cassius measuring his man.
Feeling the guy out, trying to see what he does and what he'll go for. The second round, there was the pockets of Ali's superiority.
Clay piling up the points here in round two.
In the third round, the fight was similar, only Ali put a little more pressure on.
Clay looking very fresh here at the start of the third and final round.
Ali threw more punches, and more punches in bunches, as you would say. Double jab, triple jab, move to the right, double jab, and circle to the left. He was doing all those things, and it makes it hard for any opponent who is not as fast as Ali on his feet to get a punch in. His opponent hit him a couple of times, but it had no significance. He was as graceful, as a ballet dancer.
And there's his famous shuffle.
You could put an orchestra behind him in some cases. Heavyweight fighters are usually accustomed to fighting guys whose shoes are nailed to the floor and whose arms are big and bulky and who throw slow, hard, ponderous punches. So when you fight a guy like Ali, no one can prepare for it.
Clay all over Petrikowski here at the end of round three.
It was a clear victory for Cassius Clay.
The decision goes to Cassius Clay of the United States.
Winning the gold medal for Ali was everything because his future rested on becoming heavyweight champ of the world. That was his goal, that was his objective. With him and the rest of us, winning the gold medal gave us an image booster. It gave us something to sell to the public that said excellence, that says champion, that says he can do it.
Round 3 versus Petrikowski gave us a glimpse of the lightning style that would define Ali in the ring. 3 years and 18 professional victories later, the undefeated 21-year-old sensation was on his way to a shot at the heavyweight title when British champ Henry Cooper almost derailed his journey.
I knew Ali was what we call in a boxing game a loudmouth. He loved to talk.
Henry Cooper's nothing to me. If this bum go over 5 rounds, I won't return to the United States for 30 days.
He was a brilliant boxer, very fast on his feet for a big man, moving like a middleweight. He was always trying to knock my left hook away. And actually what he did, he'd see a punch coming, he went to knock it away, and as he chopped down with the heel of the club hit me on the eyebrow.
This is tragedy for Cooper in the third round. With only 40 seconds gone, and Cooper is very badly cut over the left eye.
And I could feel warm blood dripping off my chest, so I knew it was serious, so I had to try to pick my game up.
Muhammad perhaps had been taking it easy and fiddling around just a little bit because he had predicted a victory in the 5th round.
Clay hardly bothering to punch in this round now. He's just threatening and he's teasing Cooper.
And just in the last seconds of the 4th, Cooper caught him with a real punch. He got up, he didn't know where he was.
Clay took one shot too many, and he still doesn't know where he is.
And Anjo Dundee then took him back to the corner, and then that's where all, as I call the okey pokey took place. I mean, they had, in them days, ammonia files, which were illegal in British boxing. The other thing was, I mean, he saw that the stitching on the glove had stretched, so to get him a bit more time, Angelo Dundee just stuck his thumbnail in and tore it. Stood in charge, had to send someone back to the dressing room to get another set of gloves.
He got an extension to the period between the rounds.
Now, to an athlete, that's a lifetime, that's a lifesaver.
When he came out for the 5th round, he was restored to sharpness, and he just proceeded to apply terrible pressure.
Knocking him down like that and shaking him like that was it was a wake-up sign, you know, because he'd been showboating a little bit up to then.
He was all business, and he just made a job of Cooper. There was never the remotest doubt about the outcome from the moment the bell rang for the 5th.
Henry is dripping blood. And I think Tommy Little will have to stop this because Cooper's eye is really in an absolutely appalling state.
It was clear that the fight couldn't last, and it was truly stopped.
Town has come in from Cooper's corner, and Tommy Little looking at it.
Ali always paid me a great compliment because he always said that left hook I had him when he said Cooper hit me so hard he didn't only shake me, he shook my relations in Africa.
With his focus assault on Cooper in round 5, Ali showed the heart of a great fighter, beating beneath his showman's persona. With that victory, the young man from Louisville was assured of a title shot. Up next in Ali's dozen, 2 rounds against the reigning champ, Sonny Liston, that lifted the challenger into the stratosphere.
The Liston fight, they thought I was leading my guy to the slaughter. You know, they were trying to tell me this guy's the meanest, the toughest. I knew he was. Once Liston got a hold of you, forget about it. They didn't give his kid a shot. They figured Liston was going to break him in half.
I look for Liston to win in 3 rounds. Could be 1, perhaps 2.
Liston, obviously, to win the fight.
I'm not quite sure that anything human can hurt Sonny Liston.
But they didn't realize this kid was a great Olympic fighter. This kid had so much going for him, talent-wise. Liston, to me, was the best guy out there. But he got bothered by certain individuals. I did a lot of homework on the guy, and I knew my kid wouldn't be influenced with the guy. He felt like he was going to a party or a picnic.
Cassius, can I ask you how you're feeling now at this point of the
I'm feeling great. I'm ready to go to war right now.
Well, when you say you're ready to go to war right now...
I see that bear on the street, I'll beat him before the fight.
You'd actually take him on before the fight?
Beat him like I'm his daddy.
In this profession, it's very simple. It's always a guy out there that can lick the other guy.
World heavyweight boxing title on the line.
When we got in the middle of the ring, I told Muhammad to stand tall. Liston had this thing about putting big robes on and a big hood on. Liston was only 6 foot. My kid was 6'2", and the way he stood up tall, he looked like he was 6'9" compared to Liston. He looked so much bigger and stronger. Muhammad, when he fought Sonny Liston, went out and showed the guy right away. He nailed him with a big 1-2 and started sticking him. And then the big key was when he hit him a shot and he busted him under the cheekbone.
Another jarring right hand that time, folks. Another one. Sonny wobbled. Cassius has him hurt.
But then what happened? He got something in his eye, my guy.
He's blinking badly.
Came back to the corner, and he says, Angelo, cut the gloves off. I want to prove to the workers, dirty work afoot. I want to prove to the world. I said, baloney, sit down. I washed his eyes out, cleaned them out, wiped them clean. The referee was coming towards me, and what I did, I made him stand up because the referee was going to go there, and my guy shaking his head. I was scared they're going to stop the fight.
Something's wrong with Clay. Something's wrong with Clay.
I see that, Joe. His eyes are bothering him.
So the referee went back, and then I gave my guy one thing. I said, run. Liston did a horrible job on him. He was banging him out with real good body shots. It looked real bad.
Sonny's gonna try to pull it off.
Muhammad worked as hard as he talked. He was a tremendously conditioned athlete. That's why he was able to take all those body shots from Liston and didn't fold. Well, after that round, his eyes started clearing up, thank God, the tear ducts, and then he did a number on the guy.
Round number 6. Cassius Clay still with the faster hand.
He took everything out of Liston. Liston was completely out of it.
Easy target. Easy.
I got a guy who can't see, and I couldn't get him out of there. So that took all the juice out of Liston. And Muhammad was the boss. Well, after that round, the ending came because in the corner, his shoulder was hurting, the cut was there. You know, they were trying a million things.
Well, I think Sonny now is beginning to worry now. At least his corner is beginning to worry now.
I think Liston didn't want to go back in there because he felt he was going to get knocked out.
They might be stopping it. That might be all, ladies and gentlemen.
The fight got stopped, and then Muhammad was the first guy that saw it, and he got up and he gave that victory.
Bedlam busting out here.
Great, I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest.
I said, man, we're home free. Heavyweight champion.
Round 6 marked the birth of the man they would call the greatest. Boxing had a new champion, but not everyone was ready to accept Ali as the heavyweight king of the world. A rematch took place 15 months later.
About the next fight you have with Sonny Liston, now all the needling and the kidding that you've done before, surely this isn't going to work because now he'll be ready for it.
When Ali beat Sonny Liston, people thought there was something funny, something wrong with that result, that was a fluke.
You are right. I won't needle him and do the things that I used to do. My style will be different. My gimmicks will be different. Everything will be different. No predictions will be made, but I will have a surprise.
Shake it!
Ali, he didn't come out dancing the way he had in the first fight in Miami Beach. He came out smoking.
Round number 1.
Once you have that championship belt around you, you become a better fighter. Maybe not physically, maybe not in terms of skills, but it gives a certain mental boost or mental confidence.
Clay continues to move and run as he is looking for the opening.
He nailed Liston on the chin with that anchor punch, that twisting right hand. Bam, Liston went down. Ali is standing over Liston. Liston's prone, and Ali says, "Get up, you big bum, get up." Now here's where all hell broke loose. The referee was Jersey Joe Walcott, the former heavyweight champion. Either he and the timekeeper both screwed up or Walcott screwed up. He lost track of the count.
Walcott never did start a count. There's nothing but confusion here. He's going over the judges now. Clay on top of Liston.
Nat Fleischer, the editor of the Ring magazine, he stood up, he waved his arms, and he said the fight is over. And that was it.
The timekeeper counted out Liston in 1 minute of the first round. The winner by a knockout, Muhammad Ali.
Turns out the next day that everyone called it a fixed fight. They charged that Liston threw the fight, that Liston didn't try. I was there, and I believe my eyes. The so-called anchor punch, any heavyweight in the world would have been knocked down by that right hand.
That's all. Goodbye, Jeff.
Twist.
and you can't see it, but if you were hit with it, all of you'll be out.
On that particular night, he looked unbeatable against Sonny Liston. Yeah, the knockout was screwed up by the referee, Joe Walcott, but he showed that he could punch, and he could knock a guy down and score a knockout with one shot. Muhammad Ali put an exclamation point on top of his great performance when he won the title in Miami Beach by completely dominating Sonny Liston. He made a statement on that night in St. Dominic's Arena in Lewiston, Maine, and the statement was, "I am the greatest."
Up next in...
Cleveland Williams was a very good fighter. He was a fighter with a little age on him, but he was a tall, powerful man and a very good puncher. Unfortunately, he had been gut shot by police 3 or 4 years before, and some people thought it cost him what career he might have had. But he was still a very dangerous opponent, and they expected rounds. They didn't get any rounds because it was Ali at his most brilliant.
There's the bell.
In that particular round, the second round, you saw really a superb fighter who was beautifully trained and conditioned and would just circle Williams and throwing those jabs.
Mike can hit him almost at will with his left jab.
He would throw battery of punches with such great rapidity. It almost looked like they were coming out of a machine.
Clay hits you many different ways, slaps and hooks and jabs.
It was just a brilliant arsenal. And then the right hand, so powerful right hands that put Cleveland Williams down.
The hard left, Williams down. Clay with a left, a right, a left. Williams with his back to us is getting hit at will, a left, a right. Clay has him going down. He'll take another mandatory 8. A left by Clay, a left, a right. Williams grabbing his back.
Williams must have thought he was on an elevator because he kept getting knocked down and kept getting up. He went down 3 times and he just beat the bell for the third one. He had taken a pounding. Round 3 is really anticlimactic. Ali hits him again, I believe with the right hand, and drops him.
Williams down. He may not get up.
Williams got up and wobbled, and the referee stopped the fight.
Harry Kessler stops the fight. The winner by a technical knockout and still heavyweight champion of the world, Cassius Clay.
The second round was really an example for history. What it did was revealed all the facets of his ability to move, his ability to punch, the great footwork, the Ali shuffle. Ali was just flexing his muscle, just beginning to appreciate how good he could be. It was a signature piece by Ali, certainly a signature round.
Having displayed his punching power in round 2 versus Williams, Ali made a different statement 3 months later against Ernie Terrell, who in the run-up to the match refused to refer to Ali by any name other than Cassius Clay.
I am surrounded at the moment by 2 massive men. The gentleman to my left has just told me that he is the only man in the world that Muhammad Ali is afraid of. You continue to be unafraid of us.
Yeah, I'd like to say something right here. You know, Cassius Clay, yes.
Why do you want to say Cassius Clay when Howard Cosell and everybody is calling you Muhammad Ali? Now, why you got to be the one of all people whose color to keep saying Cassius Clay?
I said, when I met you, that's what you told me your name was. You said your name was Cassius Clay. I ain't told you nothing.
My name is Muhammad Ali, and you will announce it right there in the center of that ring after the fight if you don't do it now. Acting just like an old Uncle Tom. Another Floyd Patterson. I'm going to punish you.
Look at the 3 knockdowns in 1 round. We are enforcing the 8th.
This could be a long, long night.
They were both champions. Terrell was the WBA champion, World Boxing Association champion, and Ali, I guess, was the World Boxing Council champion. And it was a fight to unify the titles. It looked like a fight that was going to be interesting in the sense that who's going to have the better jab. The guy with the better jab was probably going to win.
The bell for round 1.
He had a good style. He was fast on his feet. I knew that I had to corner Ali some kind of way. And what happened is, in the 3rd round, I got thumbed in the eye. My eye was just stopped. It wouldn't move, that one eye. Every time he would move one way, or the other, I would see two Alis. Fighting one Ali is tough enough. Fighting two of them is kind of rough.
Terrell really couldn't get on track. The eye was badly swollen, and Muhammad, for lack of a better phrase, had a picnic with him.
Now the bell for round 8.
Ali would say, "What's my name, chump? What's my name, sucker?" And he would throw the jab and throw the jab and throw the jab. He wanted to make Terrell do it. Terrell would not do it.
Steady to humiliate him. I hardly think it's necessary.
By him saying, "What's my name?" I mean, it didn't mean nothing to me. I didn't pay no attention.
Terrell was just having a tough enough time staying on his feet, never mind answering questions.
He could have ended the fight. He could have knocked him out. I'm sure he could have. He did not want to knock him out.
Terrell wouldn't answer. He seemed to infuriate Muhammad, and he punished Terrell quite thoroughly throughout the fight. Terrell went to 15 rounds. He was at Ali's mercy in a lot of ways.
The fight is over.
I guess maybe that was my first taste of his so-called cruelty. I mean, he wanted him to call him a name. I mean, we're all cruel when we're in there. But he was cruel perhaps to some people by using his voice, by using words, by asking him about his name.
He wanted to prolong the agony for Terrell, and he did. And it was the only fight that I can recall in Ali's career when he was actually cruel.
I'm out to be cruel. That's what the boxing game is about. As far as the fight being a cruel, brutal 15 rounds, I think it's the referee has the authority to stop it if it's so cruel. And if I had stopped it, it wouldn't have been legal. He would have won the fight if I had stopped. So it's my job to whip it.
Up next in Ali's Dozen, 2 rounds that bookended a turbulent period in Muhammad's life. We continue our look at 12 rounds that define Muhammad Ali as described by the opponents he faced and the eyewitnesses who watched him make history in the ring. In 1966, with America sinking ever deeper into the Vietnam War, Ali's military draft status was reclassified to make him eligible for induction. With the powerful Nation of Islam at his back, Ali dropped a bomb by proclaiming, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." In March of 1967, with his induction date only weeks away, Ali defended his title against challenger Zora Folley at Madison Square Garden.
At the time, Ali was defiant. Ali refused induction into the service. Those of us around him knew that he said he was not going to take that step, not going to take the oath. So when you went into the Folley fight, you knew that this was maybe Ali at his best, and you hoped and prayed that this wasn't going to be the last time you saw him defend the title.
Folley was difficult for anybody because he wasn't a spontaneous fighter. He was very technical and very difficult to open up because he was a counterpuncher. So he wasn't particularly an easy case for Ali.
Muhammad Ali, the white trunks. Zora Folley, the challenger.
This was Ali really reaching the pinnacle of his skills. Ali was just in control of the fight.
And at the moment, the champion is treating this as though it were a gymnasium workout.
You could see that Ali was testing him. How far away from Folley did he have to stand where he could hit Folley and Folley couldn't hit him?
The champion is putting on a show.
He knocked him down in the 4th round.
And there's Folley down.
You weren't really certain that he could get up, and he got up and he turned around and he looked the wrong way, as if a man was getting up from a nightmare and wondering where he was. Ali was clearly in control of the fight. You would think, unless there was some sort of disaster, he was clearly going to win.
The champion's speed has been turning the fight his way.
Ali landed a beautiful chopping right hand in the 7th round, and Folley went down and out. It was so quick, many people didn't even see it. It was one of Muhammad Ali's best punches.
Folley down from that right hand. I don't know if he's going to make this one.
I mean, it
wasn't any question. He was a sack of potatoes on the floor.
The winner by a knockout and still heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali.
That was the pre-exile Ali. That was Ali maybe at one of his finest hours.
The 7th round was his swan song, in a sense. It was his salute to the boxing game. There was a sense that they were about to drop the curtain on him, that this great showman was about to leave the stage.
In April of 1967, just 37 days after defeating Foley, Ali stood behind his words and refused to report for military duty. He was convicted of draft evasion, stripped of his title, and shut out of boxing for 3 years, 7 months, and 4 days. When Ali returned to the ring in October 1970, the whole world watched.
That night in Atlanta was the wildest fight scene, sports scene of all time. There was America's black mafia, America's black intellectual elite. Everybody that mattered in black America was in Atlanta for that fight. It was the rebirth of their king. Here was a guy who consistently gave voice to a great sense of self that black America hadn't been able to express. And now he was back on the stage that he had built, and it was a celebration.
Clay, I feel, has been messed around, and now is a chance to prove himself.
As an American, I love freedom for everybody, and this will free Muhammad.
He'd been gone for 43 months. He'd lost 20, 30 pounds in 6 weeks to get ready for the fight.
There are a great many question marks in this fight. Clay is certainly not in there against an easy opponent. Clay starting off very fast, using good combination.
He was still quick, he was still strong. He was fighting the #1 challenger in the world and made it look like a mismatch. Corey was a good fighter. He could move, had good hand speed. Didn't make any difference. Ali hit Corey anytime he wanted to.
That left jab is finding its mark.
To the naked eye, to the layman's eye, you could tell no difference. Still had the good hand speed, still moved. I didn't think he'd lost anything.
Muhammad Ali has certainly appeared in the first round to have lost none of his swift.
Inevitably, it was going to be stopped. Corey was cut. Corey was bleeding. There was no doubt that it was just going to get worse.
Referee Tony Perez has signaled the fight is over, apparently because of an eye cut.
It's a terrible cut, Tom. You and I both can see it.
It was remarkable that a guy could be away for 3 years and 7 months and come back in 6 weeks to fight the #1 challenger in the world and make that guy look like the amateur.
The winner at the end of the 3rd round by a TKO, Muhammad Ali.
I think when Ali walked into the ring against Corey, it was not a question of if he would ever be the champion again. It was just a question of when.
Up next in Ali's Dozen, the greatest goes against Joe Frazier and George Foreman.
It was really an unprecedented situation, the first Ali-Frazier fight, because both fighters had a claim to the title. Ali had been the champion before his exile. Frazier was now the champion. And each fighter was undefeated. I mean, you're never going to get that situation again.
Hundreds of millions are seeing this bout around the world, a packed house at Madison Square Garden.
Boxing was one of the big, really big sports in America at that time. You looked around and there was Frank Sinatra taking pictures for Life magazine.
All the mob people, the politicians, the black leaders, everybody was there. Celebrities, actors.
Nobody came just to see a fight. They came to see their guy.
The fight was very even. Joe was swinging away. Ali was jabbing him and all, and acting cute and all that.
Ali Ali shook his head as though to say it didn't hurt, but it must have.
Then the fight got pretty serious. Then they really started to go at each other. They really started to count. It really meant something.
Going into the 15th round, if you look back at the scorecards, I don't see how Ali had a chance to win.
I don't think he had any idea that Joe was that tough and that consistent and that determined. I think he thought it was going to be a little easier fight than it was.
His whole body had crashed into the canvas. But the thing I remember, too, is as fast as he went down, he got up even faster. He got up as fast as a human can get up from a knockdown.
He takes the mandatory 8 count, the only knockdown of the fight.
Frazier knocked him down and certainly clinched whatever doubts there were that he would win the fight. When the fight ended, Ali didn't even wait for the decision. He knew he had lost. His jaw was out like a grapefruit. There was no question that Frazier dominated that fight and won that fight decisively.
He didn't complain that he was robbed or the decision should go another way or anything like that. He accepted it.
I'm human, and I realize that we all have to lose and life's still going on.
That loss affected him greatly because he was considered the uncrowned champion who had to take a 3.5-year exile, but had never lost in the ring. He couldn't certainly claim that he was the uncrowned champion after having lost to Joe Frazier. So it was he knew there was a long road back before he would get a shot at the title.
The knockdown in the 15th sealed Ali's first loss in 32 pro fights. 3 years would pass before Ali got another shot at the title taken from him in 1967. At age 32, he traveled to Kinshasa, Zaire, to meet heavyweight champ George Foreman.
Here was a guy who had been through hell. He lost 3 years of his life in boxing when he would have been at the top of his game. Now he comes back, and finally he gets Foreman. And everybody thinks there is no hope.
This was going to be the easiest fight of my life. I was pretty confident that once that bell rung that I was going to knock Muhammad Ali out in the first round.
Foreman had never been in a close fight in his life. He was a brute at that time. He was a guy who could cut the ring off where the boxer would have nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. But Ali said to me in his dressing room before he left for Africa, I'm going to knock him out. And I believed him. Because as he once said, if Ali says a mosquito can pull a plow, don't argue, hitch it up. Well, first of all, everybody has all of this stuff about the rope-a-dope. Ali went to the corner to save his life. He got hit in the neck in the first round, and I think he felt it, and I think he was somewhat concerned about it. And when he went to that corner, he put his hands up to protect himself. Foreman was wailing away. The corner is screaming at him, get off those ropes, get off those ropes. Ali made no attempt to fight back.
Ali sits back on the ropes and tells Foreman to come in.
I always tell people about the rope-a-dope. I'm the dope.
Foreman thought that all he had to do was keep fighting and Ali would fall down. But he kept hitting Ali's arms.
The one thing I'm assured of, I hurt him as much as I've hurt anybody else I've boxed. But I've never fought anyone with that kind of determination to take the pain.
Foreman not scoring these punches at all.
By the third or fourth round, I said, okay, let him throw the punches, let him get arm weary.
Muhammad Ali was saying, George, is that all you got? George, show me something. After I pounded him with my best punch, George, show me something.
Well, it took its toll, not right away. It took a while. It took several rounds. By the time we got to the final round, the tide had turned. To me, when the bell rang for the final round, it was preordained. I mean, I was positive Ali was going to win. I knew he had to knock him out to do it, but I was positive he was going to do it. Foreman had no confidence by then, had no stamina by then.
Foreman looking to deliver the real heavy blows. Now he's bouncing better. Almost falls out of the ring.
And then when Ali threw that little sneaky short right hand.
1-2. The quickest right hand I'd ever been punched with. It knocked me down.
Ali, a sneaky right hand. This time he works over the shoulder of Foreman.
And I swear Foreman fell in sections. His ankles, his shins, his knees. He rolled over. All the talk about beating the count, and he was finished. He was absolutely finished.
Muhammad Ali has won by a knockdown. The thing they said was impossible, he's done.
What he did was more than courageous. It was a step beyond. It was like he was sacrificing himself.
When I stay on the ropes, you think I'm doing bad. But I want all boxers to put this in the page of boxing. Staying on the ropes is a beautiful thing with a heavyweight when you make him shoot his best shot and you know he's not hitting you. I would have gave George Foreman 2 rounds of steady punching because after that he was mine.
It was one of the biggest moments, if not the biggest moment in Ali's life.
I'm the real champion. I told you, I'm the champion of the world. All of you bow. All of my critics crawl.
After the fight, we went to look for him, and so we went to the river. And he was standing there gazing at the Zaire River. And for once, a bunch of newspapermen showed some intelligence and sensitivity. None of us said a word. And when he turned back and saw us, he walked toward us and he said, "Fellas, you'll never know what this means to me." And of course, if you hear him say that, then you do know.
With brilliant style and strategy, Ali regained the heavyweight title after 7 years out in the cold. Up next, the final 2 rounds in Ali's dozen, including a classic from Act 3 of the Ali Frazier Blood Trilogy.
Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, the Bob Hope and Bing Crosby of boxing, are taking their show on the road to Manila.
Well, here you go. We got a fight that's a natural. Ali Frazier 3. Now, these guys were meant for each other. Joe Frazier and Muhammad could fight 30 times. It would be great fights because it was a blending of styles.
I'm going to hit you right on your head and straighten out your nose.
We got something for you.
You have.
You better believe it.
It will be a thriller and a chiller and a killer when I get the griller in Manila.
I know, yeah. I know, man.
Both of them wanted it so bad. And it was the epitome of the heavyweight champions.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Thriller in Manila.
Temperature at ringside was about 120 degrees.
It was a tin roof. It was an indoor arena. And, man, it was hot.
Ali was moving and hitting in the early rounds.
Ali constantly beats Frazier to the punch.
And Frazier's not a fighter who would back up.
But a one-sided fight so far.
Joe Frazier was a great fighter. He kept pressure on you all the time. He was able to take punishment. You got to be a special guy to beat that kind of guy. And Muhammad was the guy.
Round 13. Ali trying to set the pace again.
This fight was a tough fight. Each and every round got tougher and tougher. I think Muhammad got better as he went along.
Ali ready to open up with those combinations.
When Muhammad hit in that shot, he knocked his mouthpiece flying. I think this was the key.
Big round for Ali.
Oh, the punches that Joe Frazier took, nobody could have took. Joe Frazier was a great fighter. And he tried, but my guy overwhelmed him.
Frazier looked awful tired. Is puffed around both eyes now.
He had a way of reaching down and picking something up out of his trick bag to go on and be victorious.
I would think that Ali has regained the command of the fight.
That's very true. This has been Joe's downfall. If Joe cannot match hand speed with him.
Anyway, we're coming up to round 14.
Frazier couldn't even see. After the 13th round, he couldn't see anybody. He was fighting on instinct.
Frazier's hurt. Frazier's badly
badly hurt.
My guy was hitting with all kinds of shots, and you can only take but so much.
The doctor comes up and looks at Frazier.
I looked up and Eddie Futch stopped the fight.
I think it's going to be over. It's all over.
Ali told the press after the fight, he said, this was hell. This is the closest I've been to death. You know, I don't know if he could have went on another round.
Both guys were taking tremendous shots. That fight was a fight for survival.
It meant everything to him. He cleaned his chart. He beat Frazier now twice. Frazier won one. You know, Casamana said to be a great fighter, you got to come from within. You got to want it. This is what Ali showed him in that fight.
In round 13, Ali summoned what many believe was his last great surge as a boxer and took control over his nemesis. But 2 years later, in the final round of Ali's dozen, the 35-year-old icon would again dig deep in a battle with power puncher Ernie Shavers.
Ali at that stage was still an incredible fighter. I mean, what he had lost in perhaps speed or what some people call skill, he made up in will. He may not have been at his very best. He was still 10 times better than everyone else.
He still had very fast combinations. He talked very well, and he knew how to psych you out.
This will be no contest. After first round, it will be obvious that I have a sucker. This man is not in my class.
Ernie Shavers was this bulldozer of a man because at that time Shaver was knocking down everything in his way. It was like a 98% knockout record. It was extraordinary. They thought, okay, this is going to be a real interesting test. A lot of people wanted to see how much Ali could actually take. When Ali came out, he was sticking in the first round. Shavers was in great shape, coming at him, very, very powerful.
The second round, I had him in trouble.
That one was a bit of a shake-up.
Ali got demolished with a right hand that nearly decapitated him. My reaction is, I hope I'm in a good position to catch his head because I know it's going to land in my lap. That's how hard he was hit.
Well, at first I thought he was out of it, but then Ali kept waving me in, so I figured, well, this guy probably calm me, trying to psych me in. But he really was hurt at that time, but I thought he was just faking.
Oh, yes, he's doing the wobbly legs bit now.
I should have went in. I put pressure on him, I probably would have knocked him out. He was definitely playing mind game, and it worked.
After the second round, Ali was on a dream street. As a matter of fact, he confided in me years later. He says, I had no idea where I was from the second round to the 15th. And it looked that. But he was on automatic pilot, and that was good enough.
This is a journey.
The 15th and final round.
Well, at that point, my corner had told me, don't try to knock him out. Just go distance and you got a chance to win him.
I remember there was an amazing amount of energy being spent, considering what they had been through. Ernie Shavers wanted this so badly. This was his moment. This was his crossroad in life. And Ali was taking it pummeling. Then, all of a sudden, he dug down and he caught Shavers in a way that rocked the man.
Ali, and almost every round, he would flurry at the last 15, 20 seconds. And he did the same thing in the 15th round because he hit me a couple good shots. First time he actually staggered me.
The killer instinct, which a lot of people may not think he has, the killer instinct came to the forefront, and he just turned it on. There's a part of him that just goes into another dimension and has to, where it's beyond pain, beyond any kind of concern for his own physical welfare. I remember once he told me after a fight, I was talking to the angels tonight. That's how hard, that's how tired I am, and that's how hurt I was. I was talking to the angels tonight.
Ali has retained the heavyweight championship of the world. His 19th defense, fought his heart out to get it on a unanimous decision.
We saw something gallant. We saw something divine. We saw something inspired. We saw truly a legend at work.
Ali's 15th round versus Shavers was his last great moment in the ring. He would continue to fight, but with more style than substance. In 1978, after losing his crown to Leon Spinks, he took it back 7 months later. But the greatest boxing career of modern times ended with losses to Larry Holmes and Trevor Bourbon. Ali retired in December of 1981. Of 61 fights, he won 56, 37 by knockout. But numbers are not the measure of his legacy. The three-time heavyweight champ was rarely cut, and never knocked out. Back in 1964, Ali told the world that he was the greatest. In light of history, few would disagree.